Is Lewis Hamilton living the most complicated stage of his career? With just 63 points and being surpassed by his partner Leclerc, the 7-time world champion arrives at the Spain Grand Prix at a time that could define his future with Ferrari. Leave me in the comments. Do you think Hamilton can get your first podium with Ferrari this weekend? Lewis Hamilton arrives at the 2025 Grand Prix in the middle of a season marked by frustration, media pressure, and uncertainty about its adaptation to the Ferrari project. After 8 played races, the 7-time world champion barely adds 63 points, which places it in the 6th position of the championship. This figure is not only well below the initial expectations, but also represents a clear disadvantage in front of its teammate Charles Leclerc, which accumulates 79 points and has managed to consolidate as the main reference within the team so far this year. The performance difference between both pilots has been one of the most discussed topics in the paddock. In several races, Hamilton has shown difficulties to adapt to the behavior of the SF-25, especially in classification conditions and in the management of tires and stint long. In Monaco, this gap became especially visible. Hamilton received a penalty of 3 positions for blocking Verstappen during Q2, which compromised his departure position and forced him to fight in traffic during much of the race. He ended in 5th position, but more than 48 seconds from Leclerc. Although part of that distance is explained by the sanction and the problems to bend lagging pilots, pure performance in the race showed again that Hamilton is not completely in tune with the car. The contrast with his performance in Imola, where he traced from the 12th position to the end of the 4th one, is another sign of the roller coaster in which his season has become. In that weekend, Hamilton managed to extract more potential from the car and was emotionally connected to the Ferrari atmosphere, highlighting the energy of the Tifosi and the experience of running in a circuit with such a symbolic load for the Scuderia. But the lack of consistency remains a constant. What in a career seems to be a promising advance, in the following it fades due to strategic errors, penalties, or just lack of rhythm. In terms of Builders' Championship, the situation is not much better. Ferrari is in 2nd place with 652 points, but drags a deficit of 177 units against McLaren, leader with 666 points. This gap, although still recoverable in theory, is perceived as an abyss if it is considered the technical evolution of McLaren throughout the season and the relative lack of consistency on the part of the Italian team, especially in terms of the performance of its second car, that of Hamilton. The pressure on the British pilot not only comes from the results, but also from the media and commercial expectations that surround their arrival in Maranello. His signing was announced as a change of era for Ferrari, and so far the results have not lived up to that narrative. One of the most worrying elements has been the language that Hamilton has used in some key moments of the year. After the Grandabia Saudi Grand, his statements were particularly hard. He said not knowing how much more he could continue fighting and described the situation as painful. These types of messages reflect not only a mood affected by the lack of results, but also the difficulty of transitioning from more than a decade in Mercedes to a completely different work culture in Ferrari, with methods of development, communication and philosophy of set-up that is still assimilating. In summary, Hamilton arrives in Barcelona without having yet found a consistent formula to extract the full potential of the SF-25. His position in the championship, the gap with Leclerc and the visible tension in his latest radio communications show that the British driver is going through one of the most complex moments of his recent career. And it is precisely why the Spanish Grand Prix is not one more career. It is a turning point that can mark the course of the rest of the season. The 2025 Grand Prix is emerging as a key technical moment in the season, and not only for the traditional conditions of the Barcelona Catalunya circuit, but by the new regulations imposed by the FIA that could alter the competitive order of the grille. For Hamilton and Ferrari, this weekend it represents a strategic opportunity, although conditioned by conservative technical decisions that reflect both the current limitations of the team and the commitment to a measured evolution of the SF-25. Ferrari has decided to introduce in Barcelona a single visible aerodynamic improvement, a new front wing designed specifically to comply with the new stiffness criteria established by the FIA in the last technical directive. This regulation, focused on reducing the flexibility of the front and rear ailerons, responds to the suspicion that several equipment, especially McLaren, were exploiting the design of flexible parts to improve aerodynamic efficiency without literally infringing the regulations. With the new load tests applied by the FIA, many of those designs could be neutralized, which opens a window of opportunity for teams such as Ferrari, which have followed a more conservative line of development. Although from the outside it may seem a lower modification, the introduction of the new front wing has important implications. First, it allows Ferrari to comply with the new regulations without compromising the stability of the car, which is key in a circuit such as Barcelona, where aerodynamic balance and precision in rapid curves are decisive. Second, it represents a technical essay to validate the line of development that will be implemented in the broader improvement package, scheduled for the month of June. The decision to delay that package, taken by the technical director Loic Serra, is based on the analysis that the SF-25 still does not have a sufficiently stable platform to incorporate multiple updates without running the risk of mismatching the general behavior of the car. In addition to the front wing, Ferrari has also been developing a new rear wing with a main plane design, in contrast to the V-shaped configuration that had previously used. This modification seeks to generate more aerodynamic load, especially in the middle and fast curves, a fundamental characteristic to extract performance in Barcelona. The choice of this circuit to debut the new spoiler is not accidental. The Catalan layout is known for its ability to test every appearance of the car, from traction in slow curves to stability in the high-speed section of the third sector. If the new design meets expectations, it could become a stable component within the base configuration for the rest of the European season. But beyond its own improvements, the factor that could level the pitch is the entry into force of the new technical rules on aileron flexion. Teams such as McLaren, leaders in aerodynamic innovation, could be forced to modify key components that have been part of their success in 2025. According to sources within the paddock, several competitors have designed pieces that work at the limit of the regulations, and the new load tests could force them to modify configurations that until now gave them a significant advantage in efficiency and speed in straight. In this scenario, Ferrari could benefit indirectly when seeing how his rivals temporarily reduces his performance to adapt to new technical conditions. The choice of the circuit also plays a crucial role in this context. Barcelona is historically a route that exposes the virtues and weaknesses of each car with total clarity. There is no room to hide. The sectors combine fast curves, strong braking, demanding traction, and a main straight line long enough to demand aerodynamic efficiency. Here is not enough with a good engine or a good strategy. A balanced car and impeccable execution are needed. For Hamilton, this layout also represents a known territory, where it has reaped 6 victories and where its experience can become a determining tool to compensate part of the lacks of SF-25. With a car that still does not respond as he wants and without a radical evolution of Ferrari for this race, Hamilton's success will depend largely on his ability to find the optimal setup, adapt to the new demands of the car with the new spoiler, and take advantage of any loss of performance by his direct rivals. Barcelona is not simply another circuit on the calendar for Lewis Hamilton. It is one of the scenarios that best defines its legacy as a pilot and, at the same time, one of the few places where its domain has been constant over more than a decade. With 6 victories in the Circuit of Barcelona Catalunya, Hamilton shares the historical record of triumphs with Michael Schumacher, consolidating himself as one of the undisputed specialists of this layout. That figure is not anecdotal. Behind each victory there is a sample of its strategic capacity, its adaptation to the changing conditions of the Spanish asphalt, and its instinct to maximize opportunities in a circuit where the differences are usually minimal and the errors expensive. That positive trend has been recognized within the team itself. Fred Vasseur, director of Ferrari, has publicly pointed out that Hamilton's attitude has been constructive and positive, highlighting not only his technical contribution but also his role in the internal evolution of the working group. Hamilton has gone from fighting the car to work with him, focusing on understanding his dynamics, finding comfort zones, and collaborating with engineers to optimize each element of performance. This technical and psychological maturity is an invaluable asset for a team that, although it has talent and resources, still needs to consolidate its competitive identity. To this is added a key variable: Hamilton's apparent emotional adaptation to the Ferrari ecosystem. Although he has had moments of frustration throughout the year, he has also shown a deep emotional connection with the culture of the team, the tifosi, and the story that represents running with the rampant Cavallino. This symbolic dimension may not be directly reflected in the chronometers, but has a tangible impact on the motion of the pilot, its level of concentration, and its ability to withstand the pressure on key weekends such as that of Barcelona. Lewis Hamilton arrives at the 2025 Grand Prix at one of the clearest inflection points since his landing in Ferrari. The season until now has been complex, full of ups and downs, and marked by the lack of consistent results. With only 63 points to his credit, an obvious gap with respect to his teammate, and a Ferrari who has not yet found his technical stability, the situation demands a clear and forceful response on the track. And Barcelona, for everything that represents in Hamilton's personal history and in the development of the season, is the ideal scenario to try that turn. This race is not simply a new opportunity. It is a test, adaptation and leadership capacity within an environment that has proven to be as demanding as unpredictable. At the technical level, the Scuderia bets on a controlled evolution, incorporating a single visible update in the front wing. Although this may seem insufficient, external circumstances, especially the new technical directive on ailer flexion, could alter the hierarchy of performance among the leading teams. If Ferrari manages to maximize his conservative approach and McLaren suffers a loss of relative competitiveness, Hamilton could be in an unexpectedly favorable position. The opportunity is there. The circuit favors its characteristics as a pilot: tire management, career reading, technical adaptation and precision in return rhythm. The regulatory context could weaken its main rivals. And his own adaptation process, although slower than expected, begins to show clear signs of progress. If you manage to combine these elements, Hamilton has the real possibility of achieving her first podium with Ferrari, a result that could completely change the story of her season. At this point, the Spain Grand Prix becomes more than another date of the calendar. It is a crossroads that can define whether the alliance between Hamilton and Ferrari takes strength as a competitive project for this year, or if, on the contrary, the Scuderia begins to divert its attention towards 2026. The result in Barcelona will not only mark the immediate future of the British pilot, but also the strategic direction of the entire team. And with that at stake, every detail, every technical decision and every return on track will charge decisive importance. For those who follow this season, the question is clear. Will Barcelona be the place where Hamilton gets back to the podium with a red car? Or even more, will this be the weekend when a successful narrative within Ferrari begins to be built?